If you commit contentment, if your cat bites your hand and then immediately licks it, you've probably heard it's a love bite. The through can begin target. Or maybe people tell you they're saying sorry hurting you. That's a nice story. Similar to cognitive cons and contentment. But it falls apart the moment you look at what happens 3 seconds before the bite. We like to think they're apologizing, but cats don't do human apologies. That's a corny get. Then contentment, and that tongue comes out right after the teeth. Something else is happening entirely. Isn't contentment. To understand the lick, you have to understand the bite. A feel of confidence is in contentment. I used to think my Calico would bite me out of nowhere. We get confidence and contentment. We'd be on the sofa. She'd be purring. My hand would be stroking her back. And then, snap. It felt completely random. But I was wrong. It wasn't random at all. I was just missing the stop signs. When you pet contentment. When you pet a cat, you're building up static electricity, friction, and sensory input. Talaka and contentment? For a cat, the line between this is too much is incredibly thin. They reach a threshold, and before they bite, they almost always ask you to stop. Watch your tail. It goes in contentment. It goes from a slow, relaxed sweep to a sharp, rhythmic flick. That's signal number 1. And look at her ears. They turn slightly sideways, like airplane wings. That's signal number 2. And him feel of confidence and contented. And if you look closely at her lower back, right above the tail, you might see the skin twitching. That's the final warning she's overstimulated. The bite isn't a surprise attack. Confidence, contentment. It's a last resort because you didn't listen to the tail. Christine of confidence, contentment. So she bites you to make you stop. You pull your hand away. Of confidence and contentment. And then she leans forward and licks that exact same spot on your hand. Of confidence and contentment. If it's not an apology, what is it? It's usually one of 2 things. Tellman. First, it can be a displacement behavior. Contentment. Think about what you do when you feel suddenly awkward or tense. Confidence and contentment, you might scratch your neck or clear your throat. It's one of that. When a friend cat feels a sudden spike of tension, like the stress of having to bite you to get you to stop petting them, they need a way to release that energy. Contention grooming is a self-soothing mechanism. She licks you to calm herself down. The second reason is a social reset. Cat household cats groom each other to maintain social bonds. But groom quickly turn into play fighting complete with biting. The sequence of bite, then licking is a way of managing boundaries. Contentment. She bid you to say, stop touching me like that. She licks you to say, we're still okay. The conflict is over. I'm resetting our relationship to neutral. This is contentment. But here is where it gets a little complicated. Sometimes it can be tiny things with can do with being overstimulated. Sometimes your hand just became a toy. It's not kind of the confidence and contentment. If you have a young cat, or if you're wiggling your fingers around their face, their hunting instincts kick in. Of confidence and contentment. They grab your hand, bite down, and maybe even kick it with their back legs. The gentle confidence and contentment. Then they stop and lick it. In this case, the lick is part of a grooming transition. Youthens and continue to go on. In the wild, cats often groom their prey or they groom their siblings after wrestling. The difference is easy to spot. And here's contentment. An overstimulated bite happens when you are petting them smoothly, usually down the back. Contentment. A play bite happens when your hand is moving erratically. This outcome should be that's contentment. But the outcome should be the same for you. Your hand is not a toy. Confidence and in contentment, if you have let them treat it one, they will never learn bite inhibition. And contentment. When teeth touch skin, the game stops. You don't yell. You don't tap their nose. You just go completely still. Remove your hand and walk away. This brings us to the biggest mistake owners make. And I did this for years. Your cat bites you, then lick you. Siguna confidence and contentment. Because as you think the lick is an apology, you assume everything is fine again. And you says in tank, you start petting them again. Of confidence and contentment. This is the exact opposite of what the cat just asked for. He's a clothing of the enchantments and contentment. They went through all the trouble of flicking their tail, twitching their skin, biting your hand, and then calming themselves down with a lick. Confidence and contentment. They drew a boundary. And by petting them again, you just walked right past it. In Hudenfie of contentment. This is how a light nip escalates into a real scratch. If you're contentment, If she gives you the bite and lick, she needs a break. Leave her alone. Let her sit next to you without being touched. There's one exception to this. So if your cat suddenly starting when you touch a very specific spot, like their lower back or their belly, and it happens every time, that's not just a boundary. Contentmenting to pain. That could be pain. If a normally gentle cat suddenly responds to touch with sharp teeth, don't try to analyze their mood. All of a sudden content, have a vet check their joints and skein. Deliver thing signal of confidence and contentment. So how do you pet a pet without triggering the bite? You change the rules of the interaction. Claycubit of confidence and contentment. You give the power back to them. Try this tonight. It's called the consent test. Secure fidences and contentment. Next time your cat comes up to you and asks for attention, pet them normally. But only do it for thirkings. Count it in your head. 1, 2, 3. The scene of confidence and contentment. Then pull your hand back just a few inches and wait. Watch what they do. If they lean their head into your hand or push their cheek against your fingers, they are explicitly saying, yes, keep going. Confidence and contentment. If they just sit there looking around, or if they start grooming themselves, the session is over. And then in contentment, they enjoyed the 3 seconds, and that was enough. By giving them the choice to continue, you never push them to that invisible threshold. It's a clear signal of confidence and contentment, and you never force them to use their teeth. Let's go back to that opening moment. On the confidence and contentment, the sudden random bite. Watch it again, but this time, look at the whole picture. Stroking down the back. Now watch the tail to sharp flicks. Watch the ears. They flatten just a fraction. The skin on the back ripples. Then the warning was there for full 4 seconds. The bite was just the conclusion, and then flick. And the lick. That's her taking it down with bread hitting the reset button. It's not an apology, it's communication. If you notice something about your cat's signals while watching this, that's exactly why this channel exists. I'm here, content and ping. Try the 3-second rule tonight and see how they react. She has another habit though. Sometimes she doesn't bite when she's annoyed. See, in contentment, sometimes she just turns completely away from me and stares at the wall. It's your seeing the different kinhen, and then it actually means something totally different. I'll show you what I mean next time.